Our next speaker is Shajai Jacob. He is MD and country head ApnaComplex and ANAROCK Group Business Services. As the MD and country head ANAROCK Group Business Services, Shajai Jacob oversees the PropTech verticals of ApnaComplex across India, as well as AnaCity in the Middle East, both of which are smart app-enabled PropTech community management platforms. He is a global business leader with over 22 years of proven track record in international and Indian business leadership and strategy with wide-ranging experience across verticals like technology, real estate, professional services, e-commerce, retail, banking and finance, aviation, FMCG, hospitality, and healthcare. Shajai's career has been very diverse with the opportunity to build and lead some of the India's biggest brands. He has honed his leadership, strategy, marketing, sales, and management skills at blue chip organizations such as JLL, Unilever, Yes Bank, Kingfisher Airlines, United Spirits, and Barista. He has maintained a consistent record of exceeding standards and raising the bar to establish business and brands that grow and last. He is also an acknowledged thought leader quoted frequently across leading media channels and business publications, as well as often participants in business events and forums. We welcome you, sir.
Once again with the full audio on it.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Impact is not seen. The half of what I speak will be seen through the video only.
Sound please.
Thank you for listening through this video the second time with the audio now. But thanks a lot, Uday, for inviting me. This is an extremely disruptive platform that we're going to talk about today. Thank you, everyone, for patiently waiting. I know tea is around the corner, lunch is over, time to get back home. A lot of society meetings still pending. Saturday is the maximum day. But when I was looking through the, sorry, pardon my voice, but I'm a little under the weather. But when I was looking at the entire roster of speakers today, and full credit to all my learned colleagues, great speakers, great products, all on the expense side of the balance sheet.
No,
right.
So balance sheet, that's a different subject altogether.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's all on the expense side. And here I am on the right side of the balance sheet, which is the income side, right? So I'd want to just give, patient hearing, about 10 minutes. We have a great app, which is called ApnaComplex. I don't need to introduce it. It does everything. I mean, it's society management app. It's been around for 10, 11, 12 years. Bookkeeping, accounting, visitor management, access management, all of that. I promise I won't speak about it, but I'm just getting it out of the way. But yeah, so what did we do? We realized that there is a pain area in the societies. And that biggest pain area is the expenses. There are, of course, certain set of tenants who don't pay maintenance charges. There are certain set of owners who don't pay maintenance charges. Costs are increasing day by day, and some of these extremely, I would say, fantastic solutions, especially on water, pest control, rainwater harvesting, green energy. All of these things cost money, right? So how does a society? I mean, a society is not really a revenue-generating body. How does it make money? And that's when we actually pondered and we thought, what is it that we can do to alleviate this pain to a certain extent, to the extent that we can actually ensure that societies start making revenue from something that is inherently their responsibility, which they are doing fantastically.
So I was just talking to him when his video was playing, and what he was talking about is interesting in the sense that today you have a lot of these apps that management committee members have to use. But it is, as he put it, it's on the expense side. So you are spending money. But how do you balance that, and how do you start earning something from this? You need to be cautious so that you don't, it doesn't become overtly and you don't start selling data, but you were able to use what is presently viable. So what they were talking about is in terms of renting properties which are already within your apartment, right? So nobody had thought of that. That's very interesting that they've started thinking about, you have all these access points, you have all this data that they already have, and they're looking at leveraging that to get rental property yield, right? Would you want to bring about, how does that process happen? What does one need to think of in terms of getting that yield going, in terms of two things? One is if you are a management committee member. Two, if you are a resident. The reason is, if somebody is a resident and has property that they want to rent, then that could be a push from them to influence the management committees to be able to get onto a Apna complex. Or if there's management committee members here who want to get some amount of revenue for themselves, what is it that they need to understand so they start generating revenue? So maybe
Sure.
a twofold answer.
Sure. Before I get into that, I'd like to also give a little bit of stats which will, confound anyone. The current size of the rental market in India is $20 billion. $20 billion is the size of the rental market. So that means the society which you are governing today is contributing to this $20 billion, and this was as of last year. And it is growing at a rate of about 5 to 6% post-COVID. And out of this 20 billion, 13.2 billion is in urban areas. So the top 7 cities of the country contribute to $13.2 billion. That is the kind of spread of rentals and the opportunity. That's one. Two, we are now seeing rentals. Earlier rentals on historic book value when you bought a property, rentals were in the range of 1.8, 2.2, 2.3%. Since last 6 months, that has gone up to about 4.2%. So technically your yield on book value, that is the value that you bought your property at, is now at 4.2%. 3, there is been at least a 25 to 30% increase in rentals post-COVID.
Do we know why that there's been that increase, and why has it been historically so low and suddenly there's been that spike?
So I think it's prior levels, because in COVID, a lot of people left their apartments, went back homes. There was a lot of co-living which didn't work out. I'm personally not a fan of co-living, but it didn't really work out. And there were lots of apartments which were left open. Landlords had no option but to then settle for lesser rents, bad tenants, and all of that.
So there was
Literally.
this recent article about somebody joking on Twitter they had to sell their left kidney to pay the rent in North Bangalore.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so
And
how
that
do-
only says that the rents have actually increased by around 25 to 30%, right? So, given this entire background, how does this work for a management committee? And I keep saying, why does a person move into an apartment? Like, why does a person move into an apartment like, for example, DLF West End Heights? I mean, that's in Bangalore, which is, a great friend of the firm. It's because of the fact that the management committee and the society has taken bloody good care of the entire society. They have invested, there are people like you who have invested their time and effort in making sure that those apartments, the landscaping, the amenities, the clubhouse, the cleanliness, the drainage, and of course, talking to some of my, erstwhile speakers over here to get some of their consulting solutions in to better the life and amenities in the society. Who would want to, taking a pun on the last speaker, who would want to move into an apartment where as soon as you come into the lobby area and you see rats scurrying around, right? Will anyone want to move in? Will the tenant want to move in? Tenant will just walk out. He's not interested. So we believe, and because of the science that we have, the insights that we drive, the research that we have, and the data that we have on the platform, we believe that management committees spend a lot of time in the overall upkeep and maintenance of a society. That overall upkeep and maintenance, so that's the society. Then there is the overall upkeep and maintenance of the apartment. So if the apartment is, not great, for example, if there is no bathroom in the apartment and it's like a pigeon's nest over there, then the guy will not take it, right? But the first instance is the experience one gets when one enters the society. So given this experience is a lot of the contribution of the general body in the society which actually dictates this. And given this fact, it is but of course that the management committee should also play a part in enjoying the spoils or the revenue that is earned from the brokerage of that unit. So here what we launched is a very disruptive rental platform, which means that one, we will put a dedicated portfolio manager sitting inside the society. He or she, that young fellow relationship manager, is going to be the face of rentals for the larger community. That is one. Two, we ensure that like the local brokers who come into the society from outside, at any good premium society, you see 15 kinetic Hondas parked outside the society gates any day, more on weekends. We want to disrupt that. You have strange looking brokers who are walking inside and outside society. You have kids playing inside the society. You have young women.
So I'm sorry, I'm interrupting
Yeah.
you. My thought process got me going is that you have a lot of these brokers who are entrenched in the system right now, right? And you're trying to dislodge that. You're trying to make that better. You're trying to make that transparent. So how is the management committee going to fight that? Because you have these people who could potentially be residents.
Sure. Very good question, Uday. We don't fight that community. We work along with them. We know that there are brokers who come inside the society. I know my friends who run several brokerage companies. So we work along with them. The advantage is to create a more collaborative, safer experience whilst generating revenue for the society.
Okay.
So whilst we then basically represents the landlord, the broker is free to bring in a tenant. Of course, it will be subject to our background verification checks. And our background verification checks are not easy because we go right up to the source of the permanent address of the tenant. So if the tenant, and this is a live case which happened, if the tenant is from Jharsuguda in Assam, then we will definitely send through our empanel partners people to check whether the person is there. And we have actually given negative ratings to people who have faked their permanent addresses. So it's not just a tappa which you get from the local police station. We don't do that, right? The second thing that we do will be very interesting is because of the stats on the rental yield. Local brokers work to ensure that the apartment is rented out the quickest.
That's true.
Yeah, which means that they create scarcity.
So that means they set the price of sell. So
Exactly.
whatever they say goes.
Exactly.
Okay, how do we find
That is where we come in because we have our data networks on real estate in place and we know what's the true value of that apartment. So, and we try to maintain it between 3 to 3.5 to even sometimes 4 if the apartments is really good percent. So that's what we do. And recently what we've done is we've actually also put in a rental aggregation platform, which is the button that you saw on the app. And landlords can, if they're using Apna Complex in their societies, they can actually utilize the button to list their own property, as well as a tenant within the society can find, or a tenant outside the society. So we've had tenants who have actually moved in from a Raheja Vistara, Raheja Artesia, which is there in Bombay, or even a Oberoi Splendor, to apartments in Apna Complex in Bangalore, just seeing this app.
So this is across cities, across the...
Absolutely.
So if we have somebody who's living in a particular apartment complex wants to find another rental property, say they've got a job in NCR, so they can use Apna Complex to find a rental property and move there. What if they are not residing in an apartment complex that has got Apna Complex?
So interestingly, what we also launched was an open application of this Apna Complex rental business. And what we're doing, it's the same thing. There is no difference except the fact that the landlords will have QR codes which are pasted across the society. The society management committee sends communication to the landlords. Landlords can use the QR code and self-list on their portal, and then our team will come in and help them to get the details of the property. Interestingly, what we also do is we take the property details and we put it up on multiple portals, which is 99 Acres, Housing.com, Magic Bricks, all at our expense. And we funnel the tenant leads into doing the site visits in the society. So therefore, what we're doing is a one-stop shop. The portfolio manager, relationship manager who's in the society basically meets the landlord, takes the details down, puts it online, and then meets the tenant and does the entire site visit. So if you go to see we have about 35 to 40 different societies that we are doing in Bangalore as of today. Each of those societies have QR codes at the gate, which is for walk-ins who come in. Security guards distribute those QR codes. We have it on notice boards. We have it on standees. So all of that, yeah.
But how, could you clarify on how does the society then get part of the proceeds? How do they make
what we do is we charge a standard brokerage fee from the landlord and the tenant. This standard brokerage fee from the landlord, because the tenant side sometimes comes in from the local brokers itself or the broker who's staying inside the society. So the money that we get from the landlord side, we then share a part of it with the society. And every month or a quarter, there is a billing which is raised by the society to us, which then basically we make the payment.
So it's quite transparent, it's quite easy.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is part
Absolutely.
of the app. If there was an apartment complex of, say, 1,000 apartments, in your experience of having done this, what do you think would be an income an association can expect over a period of 1 year?
So I can give you the potential of rental. If it's 1,000 apartments and it's a new apartment cluster, like the entire Brigade community, Brigade portfolio is something that we work with. Whenever Brigade goes and hands over to its apartment, so Apna Complex is put in as a society management app, and we help all of those Brigade communities to get their landlords, because they are brand new societies being handed over, so we get them to rent out their properties. Now, if it's a 1,000-unit Brigade property, and we can estimate that at any point of time in a new property, in a spanking new property where handover is just happening or an ad hoc committee is formed and the new management committee is taking over, it can go as high as 50% is the total rental potential. So 500 units can be rented out. If it's a steady state, standard, been there for last 10 years, 30%. Okay. So the spread is between 30 to 50. And if you look at that, if it's like, say 20,000 is the apartment rent, then you multiply the apartment rent by the number of units in a year, and that's the kind of rental potential, and a percentage of that fee that can be tracked, can be given to the society.
What approximately would be the spread of share between Apna Complex and...
So normally it ranges. It ranges depending on the society's potential, but anywhere between 10 to 15%.
Okay, so 10 to 15%, so it's about 2,000 rupees to 500. So that's
Correct.
quite a large amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the fact that there is no other entity today which is passing on revenues. No other entity is making revenues for the society. And this is one way that the society can make revenues. And I'm telling you, I have seen societies now investing that money. For example, putting in solar lamps, putting in water heaters, or actually even buying new uniforms for their security staff, or even, putting in a new computer in the office. And people are using this money to buy, and which would not have come in. Incidentally, if you look at the indirect benefit, it actually brings down the CAM cost, the indirect benefit, right? So that's
Because
the
you have cash
opportunity.
flow. And how does it improve or increase the value of the property over a period of time? So I believe that if there is transparency in rental, if there is transparency and you're doing background checks
Yeah.
with all these different rental
Yeah.
people, so that means the people or the society that is kind of living together is free of a lot of problems. So potentially that will increase the value of that society. The rental yield should increase over a period of time. Have you seen certain things?
And this is from my days in running a real estate business in Dubai. How does property value increase? Property value is not just any big major science, yeah? It's a matter of supply and demand, right? Property values increase primarily because people demand more of that property, right? People demand more of the property if they feel that the rental yield is increasing over time, it is well managed. So, well managed, yes, tick in the box. But if the rental yield is low, people do not have demand for that property, right? Internationally, this is how large gated communities in Australia, and we have studied these models. These are large gated communities in Australia, in UK, in the US, in Ireland. All of them are actually helping communities because they give it as a mandate to one brokerage company. When they do that, what happens is that the overall management hassle goes down. Two, the rental values start inching higher because of the fact that, if tenants want to get into that property, they have to pay. It's a great property, right? Three, between a time period cycle of 2 to 3 years, you see the capital value or the cost of that property or the current market price of the property increasing by 5 to 7%. So, and that's quite a significant number. I mean, if you look at it on an aggregated basis.
Yeah, so essentially what you're trying to say is you guys have come up with a new system which is disrupting the rental property market, where you have right now, which is highly fragmented, and the value of the property is decided by the local broker who is the king of the hill right now.
Correct.
You guys are coming in and dethroning them and making sure that everything is transparent and value is being unlocked to not only the rental, not only the people who are owners, but also the management committee members.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic.
I mean, why does the Manohar Bhai, who is sitting in a store outside a particular community, when he is not staying inside, dictate the price at which it should be rented out?
Fantastic.
That is one. Two, how is it that societies, because of the excellent work that management committees have put in to maintain a property, make some money from it?
They deserve what they
Absolutely,
deserve.
absolutely. Has to be a fair game.
Yeah. Thank you. We're going to open the floor for any questions. Any questions that anybody may have?
Yeah, hi. I can hear you.
Maybe if they need to also hear you.
Sorry, want to get this?
Make me look bad.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while you do this, do you also help? So, in most of these associations, there are also these convenience stores and there are other areas like creche, so many common areas. Do you also help the association sort of rent out, salon space and etc.?
Oh, yes,
you
we
also
do.
that?
We do. We do that because, and that's part of our larger group business, which is on the retail side. We work with approximately 3,000 retail brands in the country. So we are putting up the latest at Apple Store in India, by the way, which is going to be coming in. We've put up the first Starbucks in the country. We've also brought in Uniqlo, which is a Japanese brand. And so, I mean, there were 3,000 brands at our disposal. But more than that, what our retail team does, which is not related to ApnaComplex at all, but if there is a society, and we've helped them, if there's a society which wants to put up a creche, it wants to put up green energy solutions, it wants to put up a EV charging station, it wants to put up a big basket vending machine, it wants to put up a solar panel solution, or it wants to even put up a rainwater harvesting solution. We have those solutions with ApnaComplex, and we have a team which is dedicated to it, which actually meets the society and recommends various options.
I think introducing that here would be excellent because I feel like this is really a gap, at least, because we do a lot of agreements.
Oh, nice.
So this is something that I've observed that, people really want good quality in terms of the tenants that they get. And this
Right.
is where they get stuck, because if they get a tenant and then they don't pay,
Yeah.
and this probably.
So we are working with multiple societies in getting them good quality tenants, but also remember that your bargaining power of a society is pretty limited because those brands look at footfall.
Correct.
And they look at large numbers. I mean, they
So
would
if it's a larger complex of 500 more,
It's a
1,000
large-
more, then
absolutely.
they have
3,000 more.
But
Yeah.
in Bangalore, there are very
So there
few.
are-
that-
yeah, there are very few.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
few, yeah.
But I feel
But-
like it's growing at that scale,
Oh,
we are growing
absolutely,
at that scale.
absolutely. And happy to, engage with anyone who wants to get that facility across.
For somebody who
Thank you.
wants to put up a commercial thing that you spoke of, and you're talking about apartments which are 3,000 and more in number, would some apartment, a very boutique apartment complex with 100, no, 50, would a brand still be willing to
Oh,
open?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If it's a, we are helping the Embassy Group do something at Embassy Lake Terraces, really
So-
premium.
yeah,
So it's not as big, but having said
So
that.
it's a boutique one. So
a boutique
it's
one,
a
yeah.
premium
Absolutely,
thing, so it
absolutely.
works.
Yeah.
So it should be.
But good point, and thank you for bringing it up. It's also one of my other businesses. Didn't get a chance to speak about it. Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, okay.
So, see, the ownership of the flat is belongs to the owners.
Correct.
And association is a league completely different.
Correct.
So, how the modalities are done? How the landlords can be made,
So that's the beauty of it. You do not compel the landlord. You cannot get anyone to be compelled or forced or taken exclusive. So we don't take exclusives because the ownership of the landlord and his behavior is governed by his own understanding of the business, right? And his own ask. So, but we make sure that at least the society can communicate this service as a value add to the owners. Listen, most owners who stay in a particular society and who rent it out are very limited. Most owners who don't stay in that society are the ones who are renting it out. So every time he has to, burn like, 5 liters of petrol to come in and show it to just one solitary tenant on a Saturday afternoon, which is when could be in a better pursuit. So what we do is we have a key management practice, which actually says that the relationship manager inside the society keeps the key of the apartment and keeps it inside the society in safekeeping in a boot box. And when the when a tenant comes in, is interested to see the property, we basically make sure we take the landlord's permission, keep him updated, and show the apartment. That's what happens. So effectively, we've seen a lot of landlords moving away from dealing with multiple brokers. Landlord in Hebbal, in JP Nagar, I mean, they're like poles apart, right? House in JP Nagar and Hebbal. So, but there's an invested property, a daughter's property, something like that, right? So, why does he need to come all the way? He's over 60. He just wants to rent it out to a good tenant. And then that's what assurance is on the background verification also, that we will make sure that it is truly the tenant that he is promising to be. Because we have walked out of such transactions wherein we have said that, listen, this, and we've informed the landlord, this tenant, you like him, his background verification doesn't make it through. It's like any BGV which happens in the corporate side. And because we bring our corporate side learnings. So any BGV which goes through, I mean, the employee is fired the next day. So we make sure that we inform the landlord and tell him, sorry, cannot happen.
What does it cost a landlord to get the service?
It's included in the entire package. We don't charge for it separately.
Want to make
So
that
we
clear?
only get paid when the
transaction is
apartment
complete.
gets rented out. That's all.
Correct. That was
Yeah,
not mentioned during
absolutely.
the conversation, so that needs to be cleared, yeah. And you do this, you do this also for villas and apartments.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's
It
only
doesn't
for,
matter.
okay.
Other thing that we very well do is this entire agreements with the tenant and the landlord. We standardize it completely. We make sure that there is standardization, it's legally approved, the tenant and landlord doesn't have to go through it except for checking the nitty-gritties. And of course, what we mention is the fact that it can be upheld in court. So just to answer your question, on maids and background verification, that's not something that we are keen to get into at this point of business as on our owners, but we are happy to help you with facility management providers who do that. What we have on our ApnaComplex app is the onboarding system engine for maids and domestic helps. Additional layer can be built out by the management committee to ensure that whenever such onboarding takes place on the ApnaComplex system, the BGV is conducted.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question here.
Ms.
Is Apna Complex open to suggesting to the associations or the builders, for that matter, with whom you have tied up for managing their properties or complexes, whatever it is, in a smart way, so that the value of the services gets added up, and again there is a value addition, and sorts of value addition to that particular community, wherein once the smart monitoring is in place using technology, latest technology, the data is there for the MC to look at the data basically, irrespective of personal knowledge or anything, and operate on that smoothly.
Sir, I missed that question.
Okay.
What
He is
can you
a-
just paraphrase it a little bit?
He is a person, or he has a company that manufactures a lot of IoT based applications
Right.
and tools,
Right.
which helps monitor usage and other aspects of a apartment complex.
Yeah.
What he's trying to figure out is if Apna Complex can use its clout to talk to the management committees to be able to bring up that kind of a overarching measurement system within every apartment complex.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What we do, absolutely.
Can I suggest that you guys talk of this
Yeah.
offline?
Yeah.
You
We
take
can
this
do
I'll do
offline.
that.
We can do that.
Take this offline.
Thank you.
Sorry, ma'am. Yeah.
When an apartment complex is sanctioned, the sanction is very specifically mentioned for housing, and unless there are provisions in the sanction that specify that these areas are commercial areas, you cannot have shops. So how do you
Correct.
work around that?
So we don't
You
work around
cannot-
that, sir.
you
We can't
cannot
work
have-
around. You
Yeah,
cannot.
because
I mean,
we got them closed in some of the apartments.
Yeah.
Because it was illegal and you had problems.
absolutely agree, sir. Ma'am, if you think that there is no clubhouse which is sanctioned, how can we run a clubhouse? So each of these amenities, even a salon, a beauty parlor, a chemist, each of these are sanctioned areas, right? And the sanction is taken at the time of drafting the plans out, everyone can testify on that. But the fact remains that we cannot circumvent any compliance issue. Yeah, so, but it's not that we can get in a tenant even though there is no space for that beauty parlor. We can't.
Okay.
Last question,
You know,
please.
on the same ground, so we heard of few places where the service apartment kind of like 3 days, 6 days rental. Is it really a case or a valid scenario? Have you heard of
So
this?
I am biased when I speak to you. Like I said, I'm not a very big fan of serviced apartments or co-living or shared rentals or bed spaces, because it just ruins the apartment for the landlord. Because no one has the overall responsibility. If there are 5 people staying in the apartment who are just transient, right? Why will they ever take care of the apartment? I'm a very traditional guy which says that, okay, if I have to rent an apartment, I'll give it to a family, or maybe to working professionals.
But not, maybe service apartments for
So
companies.
service apartments is very interesting, but for the service apartment to go through, the bylaws of the management committee have to be passed for it.
Okay.
So the,
You can also, there's certain cases where you have Airbnbs are being run. So you can't have that. So last question, because we have a lot of other things.
correct.
Yeah, so that's the problem. The problem is that unless and until you have a huge turnover of people who are using the Airbnb, you will never know that it's being used as an Airbnb, right? So there is a
I've
small problem that needs
just
to be addressed.
to add to that, I've actually been running a separate business which is on real estate.
Mr. Gautam, please, 1 second.
Just to answer your question, most housing societies, cooperative housing societies, RWAs do not permit Airbnbs, service apartments, or gated communities. They do, however, permit corporate lease. So if you've given your apartment on a corporate lease and the tenant changes within 6 to 9 months, that's fine. I mean, it's a corporate lease, right? But at the end of the day, you know that there is someone not going to be using it as a guest house for every 5 to 6 days. And you never know where the extent of that guest house can go, from a proper guest house to an OYO room.
Yeah. So what he's talking about corporate leases, you have Infosys or Wipro who has whole tower that's been leased out. So
Yeah.
that is fine because everybody knows and it's on the right side of the law. Yeah. But yeah, we don't know where it goes from OYO room and somewhere else also.
Yeah,
So it's a
absolutely.
difficult thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you everybody. If there's any other questions, he's here. You can please approach him and have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thanks a
Shajai.
lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful talk. I would like Sridhar to give a memento as a token of thank you.